Hey, it's Big Game James McCarty, the sports director at Flag Family Media. We're here now with the head coach of MSU Dragon football, Steve Laqua. Coach, last weekend, a close, tight battle against Augustana, a team receiving votes in the top 25, ultimately come up just a little bit short. What are the takeaways you can take as a team for positives moving forward this season?
Yeah, you know what? I think the guys were resilient. They battled back. They bounced back. We certainly didn't have a very good start, but we responded, came back, and we kept fighting, and we stayed in things. I think we did a good job. You know, we made enough mistakes for ourselves with penalties, but we kept battling in to overcome those and clawing, and we just couldn't quite get ourselves over the hump. But I like the resiliency. I like the belief that we continue to have. We just didn't execute well enough to get ourselves over the hump.
And piggybacking off that a hair, I'm talking with Jack about it a bit, but the first play defensively of the game was that big touchdown run, and then the first play special teams-wise in the second half was the kick return for a touchdown. Other than that team, it seemed as though it was deflated, but you were inflated just as fast with the way the offense was able to come out there and make some moves. So what were your thoughts on how your team responded to those two big negative plays?
Well, proud of how the team responded. I think that's always something. No game is going to go perfect. There's always going to be mistakes, whether it's turnovers, whether it's 3 and outs, whether it's giving up a big play or penalties. We did those things. We didn't turn on each other. We responded back. We said, hey, we got to do something with it, and we went right down and most of the time responded relatively quickly. And so that's always a good sign. As long as you don't get into a tailspin, you got a shot. And we didn't get into tailspin, and we did have a shot when it came down to the end.
In the last couple of weeks, you guys have been able to, specifically Luke has done a really good job of those carries he's been given, capitalizing on them, sitting behind that offensive line, reading it, and making big plays there. What can you say to the development of the running backs and and the offensive line, and being able to run the football a little bit more maybe than in the past couple of years?
I think the offensive line's done a phenomenal job. They've grown, they've matured, they've gotten better. They're mentally really great, and we've seen some different fronts the last few weeks of things that haven't been shown on film, things that we weren't expecting. They adjusted the sails with the wins, got guys on the right guys, gave us creases to run through, and so I think that group's building confidence every single week, and that's good. They went through the ringer last year. It was rough on them, but they're you're stronger, you're smarter, you're better, you're hungrier, and I think you see that each and every week now.
If we look at offensively on this team, we know what we're going to get. Jack's going to go sling around the football close to 50 times a game, and all your wide receivers are going to go out, run clean routes, and be able to make those big impacts. From your eyes as a coach, how have they been progressing this season, though, with the way you see it?
Well, I think we're doing a good job of really distributing the football to a lot of different people. You know, when people sometimes talk about having a balanced offense, they think run and pass has to be even. I think mostly are the touches even? Are they going and getting spread out to a number of different people? Are they spread out to different areas of the field? And I think we're doing a really good job of that. So we got to continue to play our game, which might not be the stereotypical balanced definition, but that's what we're doing, and we're doing a good job with it. I think the receivers continue to do a good job understanding that sometimes they're not going to get the ball, but their route is going to open somebody else up. And I think that's been a selfless group. I think Coach Montplaisir's done a phenomenal job coaching that team mentality into them. And it's like basketball. Sometimes if you set the pick, you get that guy open, but sometimes the guy that sets the pick gets it open on the roll. And so it's a give and take type deal, and I think the receivers have done a good job with that.
And defensively, your guys, whether it's been guys in the rotation, whether it's been guys that have been starting, when you've needed a big play, you've gotten it. You've gotten the big sack. You've gotten the big strip. Last week, heck, Jake Betcher in the back corner of the end zone gets 1 foot toe tapped in for an interception. You guys were able to go down, score, and make it a 4-point game with under a minute to go in the game. How has your defense been able to come up with those big plays when needed? Because we know a lot of teams, you say you have to do it, but your squad has seemed to be doing it the first month of the year.
They definitely have been opportunistic. I think there's a belief that they're going to find a way to get it done. I think that's embedded in the DNA of our players, and as they go through, some of it is they're letting the game come to them. They're staying within the game plan. They're doing their job. They're playing their role, and if you play that long enough, there's going to be opportunities, and then when they come, you've got to be ready for them. And so I think instead of them getting caught up chasing it and maybe losing themselves, they just stay in the moment, and then when the opportunity presents itself, they're ready to capitalize.
Looking into this weekend's matchup against Northern State, I believe the last two have went the way of the Wolves. Last year was a really tough one for you guys. What has your team worked on this week to be able to turn the tide and get the W?
Well, we definitely need to turn the page from the past couple of years. They've played good football against us and really whooped us in all areas. And so last year, I think when we walked off that field, we just felt like they took it to us in every phase. And so we've got to be better than that. It starts with the little things, right? It starts with special teams, making sure that we get that back to being a winning edge. We've got to be penalty free on that part. I think offensively and defensively, understanding we've got to find, the strengths and do what we do, and understanding we're playing against two of the fastest receivers in the conference with the biggest yards per completion that we're going to see. So we've got to try and limit the big plays. I don't know that we're going to stop all the big plays, but we got to limit them so that we're able to stay in this thing and then just keep battling and finding our way and finding our rhythm.
That was something I noticed when I did check it out. The stat line and watched a little bit of the film was they had two quarterbacks. They only completed, I think, 10 passes all game, but it was for like 250 yards. When they complete them, they're big plays. How does your defense try and do you bring more pressure? Do you put an extra cornerback back there? How do you try and counteract what that big players are going to be looking to do?
It's a tough question to answer because if you try and bring pressure to force the quarterback, then you're weak on the back end. If you leave too many guys on the back end to defend the receivers, now the quarterback stands forever. He's comfortable. He's in a rhythm. And so we're going to have to find a balance to how that works out because you are right. They're averaging the same amount of yards per completion. It's unbelievable. Someone had told me if we averaged the same amount of yards per completion as they did, we would have had like 1,200 passing yards last game. So, but they're doing a phenomenal job. We got to make sure we keep. It's kind of old basketball rules. Stay between your man in the basket. We got to stay between them and the end zone. We just got to keep them in front of us and hopefully be able to rally and tackle them.
As a coach, what is the biggest individual key of getting a victory on Saturday?
I think start is important. Last week it felt like obviously it was a poor start, but we were playing catch up the entire game, whether it was one touchdown or two scores, cutting it to one, and we kept cutting it, but we were always chasing. We were always running uphill. We need to be able to start fast so we can get hopefully a lead and not be constantly trying to run uphill, at least be on the treadmill and on a level playing field and going from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Coach, for coming to your time. We appreciate it. I'm Big Game James McCarty. Have a great rest of your day.